Hello and welcome to Movie Buffs, a show that covers the best action films of all time. I'm your host, Shannon. Wait a minute, you go.
No, go ahead. You're already there.
I was going to say, damn, I just see now that I'm not Cisco, I'm Shannon. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shanny B.
And I'm Cisco from Misfit Minded. You can catch me on Twitter at rampage_misfit. And my movie page is at misfit_minded on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And my website at misfitminded.com.
Yes, awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, cool. Today we're going to talk about the OG 90s live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and I guess the franchise just to get prepped for this weekend's newest installment. Yeah, I guess if you haven't seen those 90s movies, they
Mhm.
are basically the first story is just about the turtles breaking out of their shells to save April and take down the Foot Clan. And in the
I
second
get
one,
it.
yeah, it's their it's their origin
Shells.
stories. Yes, yes. Pretty basic. I feel like the franchise kind of stays true to these kinds of storylines throughout. But what's your relationship to the turtles, man? Tell me your history with these guys and I guess how you feel about these movies.
Yeah, I used to watch the 90s ones all the time when I was a kid.
So good.
Especially the first, I'd say like the first two, and those were the ones I was able to revisit before today.
Yeah, and before they
So
got removed at literally midnight the other night. I
did
was
they
in
really?
the middle. I was starting number 3. They jacked it.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I have all of them on Blu-ray. But yeah, but yeah, those were the ones. And then three, weirdly, I remember in summer school, like they had three for some reason. So I saw three a bunch too. Uh they're the time travel one. So yeah, I love this franchise, these characters, Michelangelo, Raffaella, Donatello, Leonardo, Splinter, Shredder, all of them, the whole gang, and I loved it since like the animated show. That was like the first thing I know it's like based on comics too. That was probably like the first iteration of it. Then
Mhm.
it kind of got like made for kids during the animated show, so which was perfect for me because I was a kid.
Yeah.
Um, but then it got like when they made the first 90s movie, it was like they were like remaking it from the comic. Like it's pretty dark for
Very gritty.
for a kids movie, and then they went back because parents complained in the second one and made like a super kid version of it.
Yes.
So I want to talk about kind of like those two them and like how they compare because I think it's like really funny to look back on them. But those are kind of like my reference points. I haven't seen the Michael Bay produced ones, but you know, I was kind of out on him at that time. I didn't watch like his Transformers sequels or the Ninja Turtle. Like
Yeah.
that whole look and style just did not like appeal to me. And then I know they made like an animated one in like 2007 or whatever, which I also did not see. So I'm trying to catch up on those before the new one. But we'll see. So what about you?
I'm with you. You know, those were my introduction to it too. I was a kid, so, you know, as an adult when I revisit the first one, I'm like, "Whoa, this is dark. This is
Oh yeah,
different."
we'll talk
But
about
I
it.
really yeah, when I was a kid, I was like, "Give me all of this." I love the live action, authentic costumes and all the stuff that goes into it, and I like how the first 2 movies, they really identify what this franchise will be juggling the entire time after, which is this a movie for comic book fans who can be children and adults, or is this a TV show from the 90s for kids? You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Like they can't quite decide what they want this property to be, which is frankly why I'm really excited for this newest iteration. I think it understands that finally, but it's a really fun thing to be reminded of when you go back and you see the stark difference between the way the turtles behave in the first one, the way they behave in the second, and the color and the way the two films look.
Oh
Like
my god,
it's a
yeah.
real trip to go back and visit them, and they're only
One
a
has
year apart.
one has Vanilla Ice, one doesn't. You know.
I mean, every movie should have Vanilla Ice, let's be real. But you know, only being 1 year apart, it's kind of amazing that they can be so different.
Well, you know why it was that short, right?
No, why was the turnaround so quickly?
Oh, I mean, basically how it always is like the first one made money. So they were like,
Okay.
we
It just,
gotta
like, was a
jump on
huge
this train
sensation?
and yeah. And so they like fully just turned around and tried to do the sequel as soon as possible. So
Classic.
yeah.
Classic studio.
And it shows. And it shows. Uh
It does, it does.
but yeah, like it is interesting though that this new one is like, I like in the commercial, it's like from Seth Rogen who never stopped being a kid or whatever. And it's
Yes.
like I think what you're saying is like right there, it's like Seth Rogen, that's an adult figure, like
Mhm.
stoner comedy, whatever.
The best.
But they're also saying like, no, this is an animated kids. I think maybe that's why they went animated, possibly just to be like, this isn't like, gonna be inappropriate. You can bring your kids to see this. And Ice Cube, I guess, is in it too. And
I love that, yeah, I like
yeah,
that they're really working together more often now. I feel like Ice Cube's really like, "Comedians, I wanna work with all of you," and I appreciate that.
yeah. I just watched a TikTok the other day too, which is like this is so random, but someone was saying that Ice Cube has the same performance in every movie, where he's just like angry, like dad or something.
It's the best part of 21 Jump Street when he's like, "Yeah, I'm black, and yeah, I'm angry, so suck a dick." Like,
Yeah.
the best line of the movie, like, what do you guys want? Like,
Uh,
I think that's maybe my favorite part about what he does is it's like when we were talking about
who
Arnold,
does do you know who he
just let
plays in Ninja Turtle in the movie?
yeah, let
Who does
him
he
bring
play?
it.
Do you know who he plays in the new movie?
I have to
Ice Cube?
assume he's, playing some kind of police chief, right? Like, he's always good at
Ah,
being like,
okay.
"Get your shit together, turtles." So whoever it
Yeah.
is, it's that. I haven't done too much deep diving on the newest one. I'm kinda trying to
He
go
has
in and
the
experience it.
last line of 21 Jump Street too. Y'all motherfuckers going to college.
He's the greatest, man. I
uh,
love him in movies. I'm grateful for him,
yeah.
just, like, being able to be himself in a lot of these movies because I feel like in some weird way, that's actually a grounding force. Like, it
Hmm.
actually makes me be like, "This movie's real because Ice Cube's here."
And I guess it also like in the opposite way, it's like are adults gonna want to just go see this by themselves or like for the nostalgia? And it's like that's a way to be like, I like Ice Cube, I like Seth Rogen, maybe this will have some like edginess to it that
Mm.
isn't like Secret of the Ooze, or something like that.
Yeah, not quite.
Where they don't even use their weapons for like a majority of the movie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
strange.
it makes me wonder too, like, are we looking for that thing where we want those kids who are, like, a little bit more mature to be a part of this too? Like, how kids in the '90s that liked the first one were, like, cool enough to understand that, like, that darkness or whatever is there's still humor there, and I
Hmm.
wonder if, like, that's also the middle ground they're looking to strike here, like, where are my cool 12-year-olds at, you know?
Well, yeah, and the animation style kind of looks like they're bringing in like some, Spider Verse, like that new 2D,
Mhm.
3D animation style,
I
to
really
make it
like
like
it.
more modern. I do too.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I think
and
it's a
I've
great
heard I've
way.
heard it looks really good from like the early reviews. So,
I think
uh,
that's a great lesson of, like, over time in terms of property that could both be applied to different age groups, is that, like, everybody likes animation. It doesn't really matter how old you are, like, if the animation is cool and not like, some of those middle TMNTs where the animation looks like basically video game, I
yeah,
think you have a better shot of grabbing the wide audience because it's true, I love this new animation and it looks awesome.
yeah, and it's like you can see like kind of what the trends were, I guess, if you look at all the different iterations of Ninja Turtles, because it's like in the early 2000s when I kind of like, was growing out of those cartoons and stuff like that, they like tried to like be edgier, I guess, maybe to like, harsher lines and like more anime style, I guess, or whatever, to like
Yeah.
maybe draw in those kids still, but it just didn't. They did that with like X-Men and like Ninja Turtles and like all of those. I kind of was like, I'm out. Like, I don't know.
It
These
tried
aren't the
to
same.
evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a classic property. It tries to evolve and reinvent itself, like, with each generation of kid,
Yeah.
and I am interested in that because returning to the original movies, what was your vibe on April? Like when I was a little girl, I was like, April O'Neil, she's the coolest. She's the girl with all the friends that are boys. I want to be like her, right? She's spunky. She's like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to take this police chief down. And this time rewatching it, I was sort of like, why is she their mom? Like, what the fuck? They're like sort of hitting on her in the second one, but she's also their mom. And I guess
Yeah.
that kind of went over my head when I was a kid.
No, I'm with you. I loved April, like from the cartoon, from the animated series, and then in the first movie, and then yeah, the second one. I think that was like kind of they recast the actress, but then it was just like
Not
also
cool.
like a major downgrade in like just how she went full mom mode in the sequel, which I did not like because like you said in the first one, she was like, I'm gonna do my job as a journalist. I'm not selling myself out. I'm gonna put my foot on the police chief's neck and figure out what's going on with this Foot Clan, and
The Foot
and
Clan. The Foot is so good.
I
It's too
know,
good.
and yeah, I don't know, and like yeah, then they had Casey Jones in the first one, which they don't bring back for the second one for whatever reason. I don't understand why.
Yeah, they also
Um,
describe him as the ultra violent Casey Jones. That's like how people described him in like the reviews. And like they're not
they're
wrong. I
not wrong.
couldn't
This dude
believe how
uses
much of an asshole he
a
was.
bat, a golf club, a cricket, basically anything long and like hard that can like
Phallic, right?
potentially
Anything
kill
phallic.
somebody. Yeah. I didn't want to say it, but basically. And then I think the kind of creepiness of like them hitting on April, I think because Casey Jones was in the first one, it's not as bad as in the sequel where it's like they're the mom and also, hey April, what you
Yeah, ooh, yeah. Ugh. Like I know
like
they're
sleazy.
teenagers, right?
Yeah.
So we need that to be there, but it's true. They haven't really figured out a way to do it. And the character of April and the way they interact with her in each of the iterations, it's real interesting. Like I did go watch the Megan Fox ones that are on Paramount Plus,
Oh Lord.
and they're just so weird. They're so weird. I mean, like Knoxville is one of the voices, so it's like kind of cool because there's some cool people there. It's just weird. And in that franchise, they're still hitting on April. Everyone's always hitting on April. She's
Yeah.
she's a hottie. But they're
Hot
also
journalist.
randomly
Yeah.
like April's a part of their origin story in these ones in a way that, she was just covering it and just like their friend in the originals. And it looks like in this new one, April's like a contemporary of theirs, like another kid this time around.
Mm.
So I wonder if
Oh
that
wow.
that will change. Yeah, that will like change the gender politics of it or something.
That's probably smart though, because it is like, yeah, a fully adult woman and these teenage turtles, and it's like, how do you make a like politically correct version of
This
that
fully
now?
adult woman and teenage
Yeah,
turtles is such a good sentence.
right. It's not wrong. It's not. It's what it is. But yeah, and I also like, April in the first one like just does not take shit from anyone. Like I just
No.
even like the human characters. Like there's a part where like Casey Jones is like, I'll be right there, toots. And then she's like, what? He's like, babe. Like, and he's like, try. And she's just like, yeah, you just stop. Never mind. I don't need your help anymore.
Yeah, get away from me.
And
I'll
I
take
was
care
like,
of it.
yes, yes. Like, because it is funny that it's both of the films are super 90s too. Like some of the references, I was just like, oh my god, like it was
Yeah.
so crazy, like just filled with 90s pop culture references that probably would mean like absolutely nothing to kids nowadays.
Yeah, if
Like
they
it's
went it
so
back.
funny.
Hmm. It's
Like
true. They're really
Roto
serious
Rooter
pop culture
and
pieces. It's true.
oh man, like I can't even think of any, but it was just but even like they're doing like impressions of like Casablanca and like different, it's like kids would just not understand like any of this.
Well, it's such a 90s, like, they're such pop
Yeah,
culture capsules because that's exactly how the whole 90s were. So none of the other movies are that reflective on culture. Like, they're still
right,
trying to capture the hijinks and the, like, comedy of these guys, but
right,
that's what I'm
yeah.
most looking forward to with Seth Rogen because the comedy that they're bringing in the 90s is so indicative of the 90s. I
Hmm.
wonder what it looks like now.
Mm, that's true. I also like just like the New York of it all. Like they all, especially in the like all the voice actors are doing like the New York accent. Hey, I'm
It's
walking here.
it's
So
true.
And I'm another one I was bummed, like, just because, not to toot my own horn, but I could immediately tell nowadays that I could, like, it was Corey Feldman as one of the voices because I saw so many
I was so
movies.
sad when his voice wasn't there in the second one. I was like,
Yep.
"What the fuck, dude?"
Another downgrade because he has like one of the best like kid going through puberty voices like
So
of the time
rich.
period where it was like Goonies, Stand by Me. It was like cracking like
Yes.
sometimes,
Oh,
but
Lost
like
Boys, dude.
yeah, Lost
Yes.
Boys. So yeah, I was bummed that he got replaced too. And like yeah, these I just when I think about it, it's just like amazing to me that the this is a franchise. It's like so the more we talk about it, it's like how unlikely it is these four different like turtles that are mutants, but also ninjas, but also New Yorkers who love pizza. It's like what?
Eternal teenagers as well, right? Like, we have to
Yeah.
keep recycling that they're teens, which is really funny.
Yeah, adult Ninja Turtles just doesn't hit the same, I guess.
It couldn't work. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Adult Mutant Ninja Turtles does sound like a really funny spinoff, though.
Yeah, and like I will say that like some of the comedy in the sequel, like they lean super hard into like the slapsticky like comedy because they couldn't go with the violence. So like when the other mutants like are babies, like some of that stuff was pretty funny to me this time. Where I was like, this is so stupid.
It's
But
true.
like,
It's like they have really explored the comedy in all the different ways they can kind of do
yeah.
it in each of these iterations too. And sometimes it works and sometimes it's really, really stupid.
Yeah, it's a very like thin line, but like at least like you have like the actors that are like going along with it, and are like super committed to the bit.
So good.
Especially like Shredder, like dude, like that voice and that like costume is like I can see like it being pretty scary for like a kid watching this for the first time. It's got like a Darth Vader
Yes.
vibe that
Yeah,
he's like,
that's why I'll always return to these movies, like, no matter
yeah,
what, because they have all that real graspable stuff. Like, his costume, sure, it's like a little bit sparkly Party City on it, but at the same time, that
that'll
helmet and
cut
the
you.
upgraded helmet
That'll cut
helmet
you if
he
you try and
wears.
touch it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, wow, that is awesome. And I do
Yeah.
feel like in the later iterations or like in the animation and stuff, you kind of don't grab that like those are legit blades on there that would probably hurt you. Like it just
Hmm.
it feels really real in those old ones and it definitely did revisiting them too.
And like we also forgot to mention too, like their mentor is a talking rat, also,
Master Splinter, right. We can't forget to talk about
who is
I
their
love
father figure, who
yes,
like is actually like a pretty good dad. They could have gotten stuck with like another irresponsible mutant or whatever, but
that's true.
somehow they ended up with Splinter, who is like the voice of reason and
Wisest guy.
responsibility
So good. So
to
wise.
to reel it in and like yeah, of course it's got some of the like Asian stereotype of like, the master or
Yeah.
whatever, but it's a rat. You know what I mean? It's like,
Exactly. At the end of the day, it's a karate rat, so you can't be
yeah.
too upset. But there is something really awesome about how they had to use stop motion for Master Splinter's
Oh my,
origin
that origin
story.
story is
Yeah,
so funny, dude.
holograms, like, the I love how when you revisit this movie, you can see that when superhero movies were first coming to the screen, they were treated with a kind of respect that made them as gritty and grounded as Christopher Nolan would bring back later
Right.
for Batman. And,
They got
like,
a little
even
they got a
Master
little
Splinter
out of
is doing
control,
that
but they started off with that grittiness and like that's
right on
like
the
with the way
ground.
that it's shot, the score, everything like that. And yeah, like I was like cracking up when he like I knew it was coming because again, I've seen this movie so many times when
So good.
he was like, I used to when my master, I used to train with him or whatever, and it shows him like doing kicks in his cage.
It's so awesome. It's so
Oh my
awesome.
god. It's like it should not work, but like for some reason it does. Like it's
It
again it was the
does.
perfect alchemy of like how did this work? Like there's been so many like rip-offs or whatever. And it's like I try and think of other ones like kid properties, and I'm like, they're just not as crazy as like Power Rangers. I get it's like ninja with like robots. I'm like, that makes sense. It's not that far of a stretch, but this one is like 5 different things mixed into the pot, and it's like somehow it came out as like a good movie. I don't understand. I
Yes,
don't understand how
yes.
they did it.
I mean, this is just
So
another
impressive.
example, yeah, of one of those things where it's a franchise that's lasted for many, many years, and we talk about them, and we don't really understand why or how they can have so much power because the story of them is also amazing. Like, I don't know if you saw that thing on Netflix, the docuseries, The Toys That Made Us.
I
I'm
haven't.
not sure if you caught it. Okay. If you get the chance, go find it because they talk about a lot of the 90s properties and sort of how toys and TV shows were working together to like turn children into consumers basically. And this is
Yeah.
one of the first ones that they kind of do that with. And it is really cool to talk about, to talk with the creators to see how all these things converge and to think about how, yeah, how did this work as a toy, right?
Mhm.
Before any of it, it's like the toy and the show, how did any of it work? And the docu-series is really fun when it asks the exact same question and everyone tries to figure out how to answer it. But I don't know that anyone has a good answer because chicken or egg, like, I don't know. The omelet tastes amazing. I don't really care about the chicken or the egg.
And yeah, like we should talk like, the violence of the first one. It's like, yeah, they're turtles with weapons. They have like
Yeah, they do.
swords, stick,
They got their
nunchuck,
size.
the
Yep.
size, yeah, and then like it's and they use them like in the first one, like they're all used like even by like Master Splinter taking out Shredder at the end with the nunchuck
It's
nunchuck flip.
true. Hmm.
So but like I like in the sequel, I guess it's just like it's a super bummer that
Yeah,
they
it's a lot
weren't
of
able
like,
to use that because it's like every time they had a fight, I was kind of looking to see because I remember like vaguely that like that happened in the sequel, and it's like every fight you watch in there, it's like they have their weapons and they just do not use them. Like it's like I would have been fine if they were just like, oh, they stole our weapons, the foot stole our weapons, I guess now we have to. But it's
yeah,
like
use
they're stuck in a net, and all of them are going, oh no, what are we gonna do? I'm like, you have fucking swords, I don't know.
cut your way out. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like they
it's
couldn't
true.
even use them to like not like incite violence. Like it was crazy.
Nope.
Um
Nope, super campy rather than violent, and
oh man.
that's the interesting thing because like, that's why people hate teenagers because teenagers
Yeah.
are violent sometimes, and everyone is like, "Why are you doing that? Grow up." And it's like, how do people learn how to be good people without making mistakes sometimes?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I love about the first one is that, like, it's a tried and true one of those stories about young people embracing their power, and I feel like the Turtles are always trying to do that type of thing, which is an important maybe that's like part of what will always resonate with people is that like whether you're like a kid or an adult, reconciling responsibility for your own power is a really hard thing to do.
And that's kind of what I like about the first one too is that Shredder like is recruiting like misfit teens to like
That,
get
yeah,
this
gangland
Foot Clan
style.
army. Yeah. And it's like I had forgotten about that, I guess, and I was like, "Oh shit." Like so like the violence in a way like I guess parents misread this of the time or just were
I
instinctually just saying, but it's like when the violence was happening, I didn't want the turtles to like stab this person or whatever. It's like, no, I'm like, these are kids. Like, I was thinking that the whole time, like,
That's right.
so they would dispose of them, but they were never like killing. You know what I mean? They weren't like, so it was just as like
No.
self defense. And I feel like that's like an important distinction that like probably parents at the time just did not see.
No, and I think they missed too that like what that movie was actually trying to show because having that secondary storyline with April's boss and his son is that that story was trying to show that like
Yeah,
people don't even know what their kids are doing.
right,
So it's easy
exactly.
for Shredder to just recruit these kids that have no supervision, that have parents that don't understand them and kind of turn them into something while we watch this story of this man, this rat who is parenting these turtles and they're not his own children, but he can see and respect and impart and mentor them. And so I
Hmm.
like the duality of that first movie because, again, it's the respect of a true Hollywood movie. It's
Hmm.
just, packed in a half shell. And we lose all of that in the second one because we're like too afraid, I think, to talk about how, like, in the 80s, that is what was happening. Like, lots of kids were like joining gangs or joining into groups that their
Yeah,
parents didn't like. And I think they were like thinking, hey, it's 1991. We can really get ahead of this.
right.
And it sucks. It sucks that they did that.
Yeah,
I
like,
mean,
but
I still love Secret of the Ooze, but
yeah, it's got a nostalgic like charm, I guess, that you kind of had to be there. Where like, some of the jokes were like I was still laughing at, and like, but they really go overboard with like the punchlines, of like shell shock and blah, 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 and like every single fight has like, because they're not like fighting, they had to like fill that with something else, and then that's what, and
hmm
it's really like disorient. Like you can watch like those fight scenes, and like the bad guys in the second one are literally just like standing there and like
yeah, waiting.
waiting for the turtles to like
There's nothing
say their
worse.
line, and it was like, yeah, it got, but like the first one is so tight. Like I feel like the action scenes in the first one are so like well choreographed,
They
like
look
super
good.
impressive when you think like these guys were in these like massive suits, like having to do this,
Yes.
like doing flips and shit. Like it still holds up like really well. And like I love the first fight, like that Casey Jones like and Raphael have,
Yep.
where like Casey Jones is like, I got it from here. I'm going to teach them a lesson. And Raphael's like, yeah, no, you're not like that. You're not, and
That's
it kind
right.
of, so
Right?
again, not supporting that type of punishment, violence.
Retribution.
Yeah, it's only for like self defense and because they were like mugging this lady or whatever.
Yeah, it's to protect people, right?
Yeah.
It's to use your skills and your power the right way, just like how you want a teenager to learn how to use their advocacy and authority the right way. And it is really fun how like the turtles, they're being really goofy, but they're like holding the story in such an interesting way too. Because it's like in the first one when April's voiceover is being like, oh my gosh, here's what I observe about the turtles. Like I was thinking like, oh, that's the funniest shit about how adults look at teenagers is that
I
they like make
was,
these stories about what's going on in the teenagers' lives when the teens are just
yeah,
like, give me these pizzas. Like, I'll think about this later, you
I
know?
was, I was laughing so hard when, like, kind of in the same section that you're talking about, when she like draws the portrait of
Yeah. And she's like, oh,
of
he's
Leonardo, and
waiting in
she's
vigil. Yeah.
yes.
It gets so serious. It gets so serious at that part.
Oh, it was like, dude, it was like as dramatic as like Titanic, like draw me like one of your French girls.
Yes. Draw me like one of your French turtles for real. Like, yes.
Oh my god. And
But
like, but
even that random, like, sabbatical part of the movie is important because it does feed into how, like, the turtles choose to go back. They're like, "We can't just hide. We're not children. We're gonna, like, choose to embrace our own story and go save our dad." And
and and to the storytelling being so tight, that picture comes back, and that's how Shredder knows that the kid has been with the turtles. And it's like,
mhm.
again, great storytelling through action, through scenes, not through dialogue.
Yep, filmmaking.
I miss when that used to happen. And like, yeah, all the scenes with like the kid and Splinter too, I thought were really cool, because it's like Splinter's basically being like tortured. Like they don't show
Yes.
it, but like this dude
Yeah.
is like bloodied and like hanging from this fence.
More stuff that they will never show these kids again.
Right. And the kid kind of like, and it's the April's friend's son or
Right.
whatever,
Mhm.
is like, coming to him and kind of like trying to see like his side, like why are they doing this, and coming to his own, again, like as a kid, as kids do, coming to their own conclusion, even though like at the beginning they start off like, because I'm not gonna lie, like that might be my hot take, but like I might have been one of those kids that like was in the foot thing, because that fucking lair was sweet. Like,
I mean, the
come on.
hangout. It's
They
true, like,
had
that
pinball, they had a skate park. These kids are smoking cigarettes and cigars. Like,
well, dude, the kid with the cigar, I was like, "I'm hanging out with that kid, there's no way." It's
Sam
true.
Rockwell comes. Sam
Yes! Oh
Rockwell
my god, young
cameo.
Rockwell, let's
And like the
go.
kid's like, you have cigarettes? And he's like, what kind? Pulls out 2 cartons.
Got 'em all. It's so true. It's like kids are out here and they're gonna grow up, and in this movie, it's a lot about how kids get a choice, how like they're gonna
Yeah.
choose who they want to listen to, and they're given a lot of there's like a lot of different ways there people try to make them choose, and that's what's so cool about Master Splinter and like why I think he's such an important figure, even though he is a little bit superficial, like leaning on some things.
Yeah.
There's just something about how like he represents that adult that's in every teenager's life, the like one adult who's like, I'm just like sharing with you my experience. I don't need anything from you or really want anything from you. You could maybe free me or whatever, but I'm certainly not going to ask you to do that. I'm just going to like be with you in this moment. And those adult
Yeah.
figures are so important in the lives of children.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It was like reminding me of like when Pinocchio goes to whatever what is it? A fantasy land or whatever it's called. Can't remember.
Yes, I
Uh,
can't when he becomes a real when he's trying to become a real
Real boy.
boy.
But it's like that
Oh,
was like his dream. It's like, "Oh my god, they have everything here." And it's like, "Yeah, well, there's a price to be paid for that," you know, like
ugh, God,
uh
growing up's the worst.
it really is. I was having this conversation in a Discord chat the other day, but we were like,
Mhm.
if you could go back to whenever time, and I was like, I don't want to go back. Like, fuck that. Okay, like I'm
Being a child
being a
is the
kid was
worst.
horrible. Like it was there was like cool moments of it, but like just
Mhm.
like the powerlessness of it and just like
Thank you.
yeah, it was not cool. Like and I wouldn't it's not like something I'm like, "Oh man, I wish I could like be like good at soccer again." I'm like, I can live without that, honestly. Like
I think I'll be okay.
yeah.
Yeah. That's such a
So,
good point.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I was just talking about it earlier today because like a lot of my work like is with children, and it's with children
Mm,
who operate in adult environments where they don't really get to enjoy their childhood. And
right.
there is something about how like some adults really fantasize about how great childhood was when you're nailing it. Like the
This
reality of my
weird
childhood
nostalgia.
and the kids
Yeah.
I know, they didn't get to do any of the shit they wanted to do. They had a bunch of people bossing them around and taking them everywhere. And I
And being
love that.
be quiet and shut up and don't say anything and don't touch
Yep.
anything, and it's just like, yeah, it
Got
doesn't
Master
sound
Splinter.
great to me, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like
No, I'm not going back. I needed those Master Splinters in my childhood to remind me that, like, once I got out of this shit, there'd be cool adults again.
Thank God, I know, exactly. Oh,
Mhm.
man. Yeah, I didn't wanna I didn't wanna, like, take it, but, I mean, it is, like, an important thing, like, and it's weird to me that, like, some of these, like, biggest movies are, like, these childhood toy products, and, like, what does that say about our society that, Barbie is the biggest movie, like, we love Barbie, but, like and
It's
all the
true.
superhero movies, it's like, there's something kind of unsettling to me when I think about it sometimes that, like, how people react to, like, sex scenes and stuff, like, it's just
It's true.
there's
It's
kind there
true.
is kind of a nostalgia tied to that, and like, oh, it was so much better when we were kids that like I feel like people are just like fantasizing about this time that never existed.
Very true. Yeah, people really idolize their own childhoods, and I think it's
Yeah,
just because growing up is the worst. Like, being an adult is the worst of all time, so I think we
yeah,
just get this idea that, like, "Oh, when we were a kid, I have, like, a memory, so I just like to go back to
yeah.
that."
It's like,
But you're
yeah, I mean, I
right.
have no responsibilities, and like the cartoons were sick, but I'm like, I can just watch them now, I guess. Like, I don't
This is true.
don't need to
Yeah.
like go back and when I
No,
was a kid to enjoy
no.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
I think it all goes back to, like, that discussion we're having too, just about, like, what the turtles even stand for, which is and what I think most superhero movies stand for, which is, like, how do I embrace my identity and my talent and my strengths and use them the right way? And maybe that's, like, why adults are always nostalgic because they're, like, still wrestling with this thing of, like, I was once a kid who people just told me what to do, and now I'm,
mhm.
like, an adult who has to decide for myself, and if I decide wrong, I have to pay for those mistakes. And so I'm gonna try to decide right. Do my best.
Yeah, and I think I will give the second one does a little better of a job of distinguishing, like, the different personalities of the turtles, I
Yes.
guess, because it's like Donatello gets to be, like, a nerd, like,
Yeah. More and
in the
more.
straight up in the sequel where, like, they're just like, "What does that mean?" And then he, like, goes on this, like, spiel of, like, "Well, this ooze is, like,
Yes.
deactivated,"
Yeah.
and, like, show off that and it's like, that's not necessarily I guess they were just assuming that, like, fans of the cartoon would go to the first one and just know. that like these turtles are just cool
Yeah,
dudes or
have those.
whatever. Like,
Mhm.
but yeah, the sequel kind of tries to, and then Raphael kind of, I guess in the first one, Raphael is like the rebel, like he is the one that
Yeah,
like
he's
tries
always
to go
had
off
the
on his own.
emotions.
And like yeah, like that was one part in the first one I laughed at too, where like April's like, "Where's Raphael?" or whatever, and he's just like, he kind of just does his own thing, like
Yeah, he goes off.
yeah, and like, and while
I
he's like
love it.
getting his ass beat, like
Yeah, he might be getting kidnapped, you guys. Come
yeah,
on.
and they're just like, "He'll be fine, don't worry about it."
Ugh,
Oh
I
man,
mean, uh,
one of the other
that's
lines
something
too
I
that made me crack
appreciate.
up was the
Mm,
when they watch April on the news do her job, and then it's like, "Isn't Oprah on? Can we change it?" These
dude, that,
turtles
like,
watch Oprah. Like these are the coolest
I'm
kids.
about
These are
to
the
say
coolest
one
dudes.
positive thing for, like, young dudes. I'm glad we have this story that's focusing on young men, trying to,
Oh
like, help them
god.
out, but man, it's pretty misogynistic in some pretty
Ah,
rough ways.
true. It
Like, in
is.
ways that are
It
so
is.
laughable to the extent where I'm like, "It's cool. No one's gonna rewatch this and, like, think any of this was
Yeah.
okay." It's just kinda wild when you're like,
Which is
"Oh my god."
which is why I'm glad that like the April character, like at the end, especially where she's like, "Well, this reporter is actually has an office," and he's like, "All right, you got it." And it's in the corner. He's like, "All right, you got the corner office." And she's the highest paid reporter. He's like, "Now you're the highest paid reporter." And I'm like,
Let's
"Yes,
go.
fucking
Yeah,
ask for it.
exactly.
Like, don't ask for it. Like,
Demand it.
demand it. Yeah, like take that shit." And she does it. So, and I'm bummed that she was. I guess I was doing some research, and they said that I guess like her and the director like had some issues during the first one, and that's why she didn't get recast in the sequel. And I'm like, I guess, but it was like it wasn't
But they
like
had a
being
new director, right?
yeah, but I guess it was like actresses, especially like whenever they had like a reputation, on set,
Of
like
course, yeah,
they
especially
got
then.
like um, you know,
Blacklisted.
yeah, in a way, like yeah, blacklisted more than others, and then but like from when I was reading it, didn't seem like she was being unreasonable. It was like long production days that she was complaining about that like hours that they weren't supposed to be working and like
Yeah, like,
not
totally
yeah
just, like,
totally reasonable
fair
things
stuff.
like I want to eat lunch, like those type of things. It's like it didn't seem like anything that like would and then yeah, they just cast like someone and she doesn't really have any edge in the sequel, which is like takes away all of
Yeah, she's way more maternally vibing as well.
she can't even like tell them to clean up their shit. Like she's just like, guys, like come on, like
When she when she's collecting all their toys and being like,
yeah,
"Oh, Raphael."
Raphael. She
I was
like
like,
gets
"Jesus, what
the
has happened
snake
to
in the
her?"
fridge and she's like Michelangelo.
Yeah,
It's
this
so
franchise has tried its best to put something in there for everyone, but
yeah.
I do think it's an interesting one because I feel like there's not a lot of ones like, sure, there are a lot of boy-centric stories that happen across time, but there's something about how, like, this one is a group of boys, so it's not just one boy that's supposed to help young boys feel seen. It
Mhm.
is, like, this group dynamic, and I like that because I feel like it's hard for people to make friends, so there's
Mhm.
something cool about how this, like, gives you access to different personalities you can try when you go make
Yeah.
friends. And I think it does a really good job of capturing the awkwardness that I feel like sometimes Spider-Man skips over since Spider-Man has a romantic story happening. So he doesn't like stay
Well,
in
the
the
first
awkward,
Raimi
like,
I mean,
yeah,
the Raimi
geeky.
ones, at least, they deal with that type
Yeah,
of
it's true.
yeah,
Raimi,
going
he's a smart guy. He knows about it.
yeah. I mean, Spider-Man, obviously, about puberty. I mean, this guy shoots webs, for God's sakes, like, let's
Yeah,
not
his hands are covered in something sticky.
and they
But
they straight up reference that in No Way Home, like, it's not a secret, like, these are all teen boys trapped in adult bodies, even though
it's
they're
true. Yeah,
grown up.
we have content for those teen boys, but there's something about how, like, those teen boys that are, like, not quite cool yet, meaning, like, they don't quite have girlfriends or they're not maybe late bloomers or something. There's something nice about how, like, the turtles kind of have that, like, their power is greater than their little sweet personalities are ready for, and that's kind of like what they're learning in these movies, and it's so cute. Oh
And these
man,
and these
I
dudes
grew up, I guess.
love pizza. They fucking love pizza. Like
Me too,
anyone
dude.
can relate to that. Like, it's like the most relatable trait they probably have. It's just like,
It's true.
who doesn't love pizza? Like,
I'm gonna fucking eat pizza later tonight. I'm craving it
oh my
because of
god.
these
I
fools.
was like, while I was watching it, like some of that pizza looked amazing. And I was just like, oh god, I should have made pizza like before I watched this. Like it's
I'm gonna
so
get. I have to get some. That's
yeah.
it. It's settled. I gotta get
Someone
some.
made a meme too, and like I completely agree. But like when we were kids, like those cartoons, like all of the cartoon pizza looked like the best pizza. I'm like, I want a pizza that's that rubbery and stretchy that like
Yes. Right.
it's like that pizza doesn't exist, but like for some reason the way they animated it was like just the cheesiest,
It's the
like
way.
most delicious
Yes.
pizza. And it's like, but
Dream
they do a
pizza.
good job of just having like the New York style like just humongous pizzas that they would just order. And like
Epic.
uh the second one they're like ordering out like every night. Like the delivery kid is just like, you guys should order in bulk for if you're gonna they're pretty
Yes.
obvious. They're not good at like hiding their identity either. That's what the other point I wanted to bring up is like Raphael is straight up walking the streets in a trench coat and a hat and a fedora, and like no one realizes that there's
Yeah.
this
No one's
like
like, who's
huge.
this turtle guy?
There's one guy I love in the first. There's one guy in the taxi cab that's like, it looked like a huge turtle in the trench coat, and then they just like move on. It's like every
Yeah.
other human though, like even Casey Jones is like, "What are you, a tweaker?" And it's like,
Yeah. Where are you getting that from?
what tweaker looks like that?
I don't know. I'll keep my eyes out. I'll see if I
Fucking
can find
hilarious.
any.
I know.
And also, like, no one talks about why they would need to hide their identities. Like in other superhero spaces, people are like, oh, here's why you have to hide your identity. It's like so
Yeah.
serious. But here it's sort of like, what is it?
It's kind of Master Splinter's like direction or whatever, that
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
must be invisible, and then that was one of the funny parts of the second
Ninja
one where
guy.
they're like, we are. He goes, what about this? Ninja rap.
Yes. Oh, God. Everything is just
I made a
the
funny
best.
Cowabunga. I made
Yeah.
a funny.
I'm always liked. Yes.
And then just
Just
straight up recycle the end of the second one. I made a funny again. I was like, oh God. What a
this is
cash
what you come
grab
to
ending.
expect, right? Like there is something almost episodic in everything they do, and this is like got to be one of the most successful, TV shows and cartoons and of
Oh
all
yeah,
time,
hands
right?
down.
Like it can. I bet it's barely rivaled by only other properties that have existed as long as it. So it is kind of amazing that it's just kind of an amazing world,
30 years. This first one was what, 90? So 30 something years of
Holy
Ninja Turtles.
shit. God, that is wild. That is
And then
wild.
the animated series was the 80s. So it's even older if you're
Even
counting
older.
that. Yeah.
Yes, I love entertainment. I love
Not to
movies.
bring it
I love
down.
it.
Not to bring it down. That's how
No, I
old
mean,
these things have been
honestly,
around.
I like that a lot of our conversations this year have been around these franchises that have lasted for, some about 10 and all the way now up to
Yeah,
like
even like
30 and
Mission
40.
Impossible, it's like, yeah, the first Mission Impossible was like 93, but then okay, the series was from the 60s. So it's like these never die. These franchises never die.
That's why I
Just
love
like Ethan
yes,
Hunt.
yes, legends never die. That's right. Fuck yes. That's why I love it. And that's why I love doing these things because I feel like there's always something you can go back in for the referential pieces of it or the culture of it. And I am excited for this newest one.
Yeah.
Man, I really dropped the ball and I missed Spider-Verse too. So I'm really gearing the fuck
Uh
up to
yeah.
get my summer joy out of this one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Spider-Verse was I didn't fully get on board with the story, but like visually you can't deny that those Spider-Verse movies are like just changed the game, like, Toy Story did with like 3D animation. It's just
It's true.
undeniable. And yeah, like the biggest takeaway from these movies, if any, do not put anchovies on pizza. Come on, guys. Like, what are you doing? No anchovies.
Exactly. No
And then what
anchovies.
does he say? He's like, you put anchovies on it, you're not getting paid. Like, he's so
That's right.
serious.
No tip, bro.
No, he was like, hey, he was like, you were 2 minutes late.
I love it. I love when he's like, just drop it down the sewer, man. Just the greatest, right? A world where everything goes. I love those places.
Someone pointed out one of the letterbox reviews that I was reading was saying like, can you imagine how bad they fucking smell? Like these are turtles that live in the sewer all day with a rat
I
and they eat
never.
nothing but pizza.
Oh,
Can you
and they're
imagine?
teenagers, right? They're teenagers
Can you
too.
imagine
So
the fucking foul stench that these kids?
that
Oh
that is
god,
wow, that's a
horrifying,
very
horrifying to
important
think about.
reframe. I had forgotten that I'm grateful to now be like, "Yeah, that's right," because that is the one piece of teenage stuff they don't bring in is, like, how everyone always talks about how teenagers smell bad, so thank you to that letterboxd
Yeah,
reviewer for
what deodorant do they use? Like, what are
yes,
they
where were
using?
the, like, turtle wax jokes for deodorant? Let's
Oh, they
go.
did have a turtle wax thing too. That was funny. Let's
Oh, man.
go.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Alright, cool. Anything else you wanna mention before we wrap it up today?
Um, God, did I have any? Trying to think if I had anything, any last thing. I think we covered all of it. I mean, the second one has the ninja rap song. Like, go check that
I
out.
need a
It
resurgence.
can't be described. It can only be heard. You know, Vanilla Ice. You know, go ninja go.
I'll put it on our Instagram story or something. I'll try to see if I can get it in there.
It's just like, you know, it's not great now, but you know, back then that was just the wave. You know what I mean? Like that's.
I will say, I do just like we were talking about in our review of Barbie, like, this movie is at a time where the soundtrack of the movie has to do with people writing songs for the movie,
Yeah.
and so I will
I
never
just love
not
that
love
like these turtle guys show up and instead of like all the humans being like horrified like you would, it's just like, all right, ninja rap, let's go, go ninja, go. It's like
Yeah.
what?
They're like, "What? We were at this
What
pop-up
world?
and the turtles showed. Yeah." Oh, man.
Yeah, the
Thank
relationship with
yes.
humans and the turtles, like that's gonna. I wonder how they're gonna handle that in the new one because that's always been like a fun. You know, they're staying secret. Sometimes they're like pass out and act appropriately, and other times they're just like no, they're not phased whatsoever. Like it's pretty funny.
Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get with those turtles or with the humans around them, so we'll have to
I do
see.
know what I wanted to say. I forgot
Mm,
one thing. So the Sam Rockwell cameo absolutely just blew me
stellar.
away. Could not believe that. And then in the second one, there was a cameo too at the beginning, which was the God, I don't know her name, but she's in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, yes,
She's
Alana's mom,
yes,
from, Broad City also. Yeah, what the fuck
yes.
is her name? I can't remember, but she
I
is
was
there.
that was another like whoa, like I cannot like it's just as soon as I heard her voice, it was like that voice is just like so ingrained from so many Curb episodes. Fuck you, Larry.
Yes. Oh, she's the
Get the fuck
best.
out of here.
I'm so glad she's been working all this time too.
Dude, her outfits and Curb Your Enthusiasm alone, you got to if you haven't caught up, you got to and I
So
guess
good.
new
And she's
season's
very
coming. I
funny when she
cannot
guest
wait.
stars on Broad City too.
Oh, yeah, I heard that show is really good too. I haven't seen that, but
Oh,
I
bro,
heard
you're
it's
gonna
great.
love it. You're gonna die laughing. It's so funny.
Yeah,
Nice.
that was the last thing. That was the last thing. I was like, I knew I had one cameo. I was like, could not believe that.
No, we can't forget to talk about her. She's fucking hilarious. So
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So yeah, I think that wraps it up, guys. Let's get our plugs in and get out of here. We want to remind the people where they can find us.
For sure. All right. Follow the show on Instagram at We Stay Buff, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all that good stuff. That way you never miss a minute of the action. And personally, you can follow me at It's Me Shani B on all those platforms as well.
Oh, and then I forgot too. The lab guy in Secret of the Ooze. I was like, could
Oh
not figure
yeah.
out. I could not figure out where he was from. He was the bad guy in the Tron, the original Tron movie.
He's also the bad guy in Titanic who works for
Oh, that's right.
Billy Zane.
We brought it all the way back around. Draw me like one of your French girls. This is why
Oh
you should listen to the
shit.
show, guys. Like we're professionals here.
It's magic. There's a lot of magic happening.
But yeah, but don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you have time, please leave a positive review. Give that 5 stars on there. Follow me on Twitter at rampage_misfit and my movie pages at misfit_minded. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and then my website at misfitminded.com. So thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time for another edition of Movie Buffs. Stay buff.
Stay buff, dude.
No anchovies.